Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Eden here with Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network. Welcome, Greg, in Australia. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Eden. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. And I've seen a lot of your podcasts that you've done with other people. So I really want to get deep with some things with astral travel. Items we might want to discuss, which I've gleaned from your other episodes that you've done. Ultra reality, I love that term. This life being a dream, 5 senses are actually 1 sense. And this is really interesting too. We may talk about this. To be human is to be traumatized. Yes, indeed. Okay, so Greg knows. In a second, I'm going to read his bio, but I've got a couple things I'm going to share with you guys. Because Greg, I don't think I've done the show weekly for like 3 years. So I come in with the little, usually what's going on in my world, and knowing that we're recording, but this will not be live for 2 weeks. So I try not to have things be too topical. Yet, want to let y'all know the guests I had on that will be last week. All right, I really work hard at being discerning with the people that I bring on my show, knowing that this is about 3D to 5D. Yet it's become very clear to me lately that there is some disparagement in that as well. So Greg, and I know I came back to you after we agreed to have the show, let's say, with a little bit more. So I think I'm going to be stepping it up a little bit. So to give you guys an example, we talked about 3D to 5D, all about dragons, was amazing. Yet she also believes in climate change. And I was so taken off guard at that point. I didn't expect it. So I didn't know what to say. And she just kept talking. So she might have had a really interesting perspective on that. So for me, climate change it's a fear agenda. We go into HAARP, weather manipulation, direct energy weapons, chemtrails, the list goes on and on. Yet I want to make a promise to everyone who comes on the show. Again, use discernment with all the guests that come on. And I've expressed before, there've been some people that I realized after the fact didn't really get all of this. Yet when I look back, they had good information to share. So, boy, Greg, I'm giving a lead in to you, aren't I? A friend of mine also went to a conference this weekend in California, and I don't know if any of you guys know Marianne Williamson, Course in Miracles. She's been around a really long time. That on stage, she basically said that Trump voters are white nationalists and racist. All right, so I also want to put it out there that this ascension is all about love, that any of this is division. Anyone who communicates anything divisive, don't go there. Love, love, love everybody. Okay. Ooh, I'm going to shake it up a little bit. Also, final, and I'll get to Greg in just a second. The FBI documents of the Kennedy Assassinations and Martin Luther King are live and out there. I potentially put up a video last week that was not 100% accurate because I had not read the documents myself. So do that first before you listen to anybody. It is vault.fbi.gov. And for Martin Luther King, it is Martin Luther King Jr. Part 1. So discover things for yourself. Okay. Greg, I'm going to go into you now. Thank you for listening. All right. Greg Doyle has been a Reiki master. Love that. Me too. Since 2005. I'm not sure when I became a master as well, but we have that in common. He specializes in energy healing and teaching astral projection, lucid dreaming, Reiki, and related topics. He has also written a popular book on the subject, Awakening the Giant Within, a personal adventure into the astral realms, which details his spiritual awakening and experiences in the astral world. Greg is currently writing a second book on the same subject. Yeah, you. As a former professional classical musician, Greg first discovered meditation primarily to combat stage fright. In 1999, he awakened to the reality of the phenomenon of astral projection. This was, I can believe it, a life changing experience that expanded his consciousness, changed the course of his career, and altered the perception of his being at a fundamental level. Being in Brisbane, Australia, he holds Reiki courses, astral travel workshops, talks, and retreats, as well as meditation classes, and offers healing sessions as a Reiki master in the Ashui lineage of Reiki. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, Sui, yeah.
Asui. Thank you. Okay,
Mm.
Greg. My first question to you is typically my first question with guests on the show. How did you start seeing that we are in a matrix, that this world is not real, that we are going through this great awakening? How did that first come to you?
I think, well, the first experience was, as you would have heard from some other podcasts, when this light came into my forehead, that was my awakening. And it woke me up and took me down a wormhole and to an alien planet kind of thing. And because it was so ultra real, like this whole astral experience is it's more real than 3D. So therefore, I questioned everything that I came back to, and for a while, it was like I didn't want to be in 3D because it was just so much more kind of full bodied, full sense, this other reality, and it was a very loving reality, like the benevolence of the astral. There's this feeling of this, look, you've got to experience it. That's why it's kind of taken my life to do this kind of thing that I'm doing now. That's why it took over from classical music. So I guess then I realized it also woke me up to certain things. You could just see agendas more easily. And as you said before, I liked your intro to the whole thing actually, and this is part of the waking up thing that you develop a detachment, I guess, from a lot of the earthly stuff, and you've got to come back into balance where you don't kind of reject 3D, but you see it for what it is, which is kind of like a matrix kind of thing that we're designed really to find our way through, to swim out of, really.
Yes. And when, okay, because I know it was violin that you did. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. That what, how big of your life was that at the time when you started having these first, were you all into music?
That's a good question. I remember at the time, yeah, I was, but at the same time, I always hung back a little bit. Like I questioned myself a little bit because I thought, is that it? The music was beautiful, but the world of music, the politics of music, I was struggling with.
Yeah.
Um, the people of music, if you like. And I remember my mindset a little bit when the first experiences started coming was because I've been to meditation, for years. My mindset was a bit, is that it? Is that what it's all about? These sort of games we're playing. I love the vibration of music, and I love music. So it was for me, it was very basic and very simple, and it just got more and more complicated the more I got into the world of it. I think on a past, maybe in a past life I've done it or something. I remember Bernstein saying once that he'd done this before. It was easy. So in many ways, I almost felt music was almost a cop out because I felt I wasn't really, really stretching myself, on a certain level.
Well, and I know you talked about, because again, when we talk about the 3D going to 5D and all these
Mm.
institutions are going to recreate themselves. And when you talked about, I also listened on one podcast, and when you talking about music being an institution, it like I'm assuming, like explain that a little bit more.
Well, there's a hierarchy, and you don't, I found when I was, yeah, I guess you've got to earn your stripes, and as a young conductor, because I was conducting quite young, I got into conducting, and then I found myself in the situation of conducting colleagues that I knew. They were playing in the orchestra, and they sort of see you as separate. And it's funny, this whole notion of separation, huh? Because once you're a conductor, you kind of you're the other, because you're telling musicians what to do. And I know when I started having these out of body experiences, I started just speaking authentically in the wrong time. Like I'd say something to a very important person. It was hilarious. I remember after one concert, this guy came up to me and he had some big cravat on. He was looking very, you know, official and whatever. And I was speaking to some friends and, he came up to say a compliment, but I kind of waved him off and said, look, excuse me, I'm talking to my friends here. And then, and then the next day I saw that, in the newspaper, this was some famous Mexican conductor visiting Australia. And I thought, oh no, oh no. And there was a whole line of these things where I thought I wasn't just speaking authentically, it was being a little bit too much myself in situations that I probably should be more diplomatic. And then it was just lining up. It was like ducks lining up, especially after the astral experiences started. So I could see a pattern. I
Well, it
could see a
sounds like
pattern.
you weren't buying into the hierarchy of this person's better than that person anymore. Like some of that really started letting go. Again, I know you also talked about when you started having these experiences, like sometimes you didn't want to come back, and they said, "Yeah, you have to come back," and parts of it were just like finding your place in this world and being suicidal at times. Please, can you first give us just kind of a definition of what astral travel is for those who are
Yeah, yeah.
new to the subject, and then we'll go more into
Yeah,
you.
it's really becoming, it's a good question. It's becoming conscious outside of the body. So we all astral travel, we all do leave our bodies. This is a fact. We all need to leave but we have our astral body preempts the physical. So it's part of our blueprint, if you like. It's one of our bodies and it's connected to the heart chakra. And astral travel itself, when we talk about it like this, just means becoming conscious in that body. So the word astral comes from the Latin word astrum, which means star. Um, and so it's actually literally we have a star body that is built to navigate the cosmos. And when I say cosmos, I'm talking time, place, space, all of that kind of thing. So
Okay,
it's
hang on
really
just a moment. That is just so beautiful. Say that again. We have a star body to navigate the cosmos.
to design that is designed to navigate the cosmos.
Okay, because that is also when people are trapped into all this stuff that's going on today. I mean, that is just that we all have that. It's just
Mm.
so fabulous. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, isn't it? No, I agree with you. It's very comforting and very beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would be like not to have had these experiences consciously. For me, so what normally happens with an astral body when I observe people going out of body, generally happens before dawn. There is like a translucent version of themselves.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to look like them, but it often does. It sometimes doesn't look like them. It's just a light. And it tends to disembody itself. It's connected, but it tends to move just out of phase with the physical body. And then all of these energies come in. So what I've noticed is that there's a lot of like flickering of light, different lights. It is a light body. Think of a flickering star. And it seems that these rejuvenative energies from the cosmos, like from home, if you like, come into the physical and through via the astral body. So the astral body is kind of like it's like a prism where these energies come into. It's able to kind of morph these energies that then phase into the physical. So everybody, everybody's astral body is active at night. It's just a question of whether you can become conscious in it and have these adventures consciously. So yeah, so people shouldn't think it's an add-on. That's what I tell people. The astral experience is actually a letting go. Once we let go of a lot of the programs, then we start to become conscious in this higher body, higher vibrational body. When we say higher, we just mean it's vibrating at a higher level. That's why everything feels more real.
When this first happened to you, from what I understand, it just came out of the blue.
Hmm.
Why you, do you think? And why did it happen this way?
Well, why not? Why, look, it's a good question. What I realized because I kind of demanded a few questions. I was kind of like being not abducted, hijacked a little bit at night, like just being taken out. And then I came to a point, a couple of months in having these experiences, particularly early on when it was just a whole, a lot of these experiences happening. I kind of put my foot down and I wanted some kind of answer. I remember, you would have heard about this, but when I met my guides, and it was very, very, what do you say, very lucid in that they kept pulling me back. Like I wasn't even asleep. I'd just be lying in bed, and then I'm not even asleep, and they just take me back to the same place. They were telling me about myself. And then soon after that, I had this like what seemed like a past life regression where I saw myself as a non-human. So a lot of the themes I was having were extraterrestrial kind of themes, where I wasn't particularly interested in that, in my 3D life. Apart from building little UFOs from Lego when I was a kid, when I look back. Um, and then I realized that, okay, wow. So I haven't been on the planet this long. I mean, it was like only 4 lifetimes ago, I was this kind of longish, tallish, bluish alien, which is quite startling at the time to realize this. But also what happens with astral experiences is you kind of just embody the experiences, like it's beyond the intellect. So I realized I'd kind of been sent here on a bit of a mission. I know that sounds a little bit overblown, but you know what I mean. I realized
Yeah.
that I consciously made a decision to come back and do what I do. And I
Mhm.
started to also see myself training people to go astral. I was seeing this in the astral at that stage. Um,
So fun.
that's right. It's like mirrors in mirrors. And then I
Yeah.
realized, okay, so life wasn't that bad. It was actually quite rosy because I had this other dimension that was kind of happening side by side and consciously. It kind of, it made me look at everything through different color glasses, I guess.
So, having done Legos when you were little, this was your really first experience with, oh my gosh, planetary, there's so much more to this, to the cosmos, to the world. Was that your first experience in that?
It was because I remember as a
That had
little
to be
kid, I remember at
striking.
school actually, I had a friend at school who said, Greg, nothing ever shocks you. And I remember thinking, I was fairly stoic to the world of 3D on a certain level. Like it
Yeah.
didn't really, and you could psychoanalyze that. Didn't really touch me to a certain extent. I mean, I loved nature and certain things, and I used to daydream a lot. But when these experiences came, it kind of just the penny dropped. It made sense that the 3D was because I used to think that when I was a little kid, I used to think why are people so unloving to each other? Like why is there this I don't know. I mean, you probably felt the same, Eden. Why there's this kind of antipathy that is seems to be engendered by society? What is this all about? You know, I questioned that. That's probably why I fell into music because it was just so beautiful.
Mm.
And the Astral very much had that. And funnily enough, in the Astral, you can hear beautiful music like, and it is the cliche. It is like incredible harp music and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty funny.
Neat. Very neat.
Hmm.
Okay. Where do I want to go from here? I've got so many. Okay. I loved your statement before about the ultra reality. Go into that a little bit more. And you kind of touched on that in the astral realm, that you feel so much more. Yeah. Go. You explain.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like you touched upon it before with the senses. It's like one sense. So like in 3D, we talk about the separate senses, and the funny
Yeah.
thing is people feel separate. There is this separation is part of the illusion. This is where suffering comes from this notion that we are separate, which of course is rubbish, garbage. We're not separate. So in the astral, you feel this incredible. When I say full-bodedness, it's like you can set like everything is you telepathize with people like with entities and you can sense how a tree is feeling, you can sense how the earth is feeling, you can communicate with something behind your back. You don't have to look to swing your head around to see it. And so there are more colors, there are more sounds, there's a certain stillness. And what I've derived, what I've worked out is when I've really analyzed my mind, because I've been out there a lot and I've often forced myself awake while I'm astral to just see the transition, to see the difference. it seems this notion that we've in these spiritual domains that we're in, we talk about with mindfulness, we talk a lot about being in the present moment or the now. In the astral, you are full-bodied in that present moment. So there is no past, there is no future. You totally
Oh,
embody the present tense. And so because it's out of 3D, so you're into like 5D, which is beyond time and space. It's not a linear thing. And that's why it's so ecstatic, because you are utterly present. And that was kind of the driving force for me to get more and more into this and into these meditations that I do with some people in courses, because it's totally an ecstatic state of being when you're entirely present. So to meditate in the astral is the highest form for me of consciousness, where you are, it is so ecstatic and you're so connected to everything. So there is no past. So there is no weight of the past you're dragging with you. There is no expectation of the future, that we've got a little bit there, we're all thinking even on a very low level of past and future. So you are literally, without any attempt, you are fully embodying the absolute nowness, which is out of linear time. So when you're in that now moment, ironically, you can access past and future and all these states because you are kind of clinically present. I don't. It's a weird thing to say. So therefore, your thoughts are very yours. Like they're not being impeded, like as we've seen the last few years with all of this ridiculousness of what happened the last few years, about how most people took that frequency on board and took it, they believed it to be so, all of the fear. So you're beyond fear. You're beyond the reaches of any kind of fear, and that is very ecstatic state of being.
would you describe it as being in the 5D? It sounds like even beyond the 5D. It sounds like
Mm.
it's just, I mean, that's the point of everything.
Yeah, yeah, it is that and beyond. I think. Okay, technically astral means like these lower, 4 and 5 kind of stuff, but you actually can go beyond and beyond and beyond and
Yes.
to wherever your consciousness takes you. So you can sense that state of unity consciousness. You can touch upon
Oh.
it, which is incredible. If you go too deep into it, you probably never come back. I don't know, but um, but it and you do feel, it sounds negative, as you say before with your preamble, like, oh, we're not talking about that. But when you kind of descend back into the physical, because it's a lower frequency, you're coming to a more clay-like frequency, and you can sense it. And in the beginning, it was quite challenging to do that. But the more I would go, up and then come back again, it kind of became like an elevator, that I was kind of used to the touch of that, and so it kind of got easier and also less traumatic, if you like. I can see why a lot of people
Yes.
have near-death experiences, and they're almost traumatized by being back in the body for a while. And then, look, in the beginning, I was probably rejecting this reality a bit too much early on, because I was just so amazing. And then I realized that it's all part of one. In fact, these higher states of being were helping me see my way forward. And in the end, this tremendous sensation I got, if I kind of gleaned that we're all moving toward that anyway. It's like it's a win-win. We're all moving toward this awakening, that there is, we're all part of that structure. And I guess we've got to enjoy floundering around the matrix for what it is, and just I don't
I
mean that
love the way
negatively.
you
Once you
said
get
that. I love that. Yeah, completely understand that. Yes.
because
Well
it is
put.
it's a flounder. It's
It
a
is a
flounder and a half.
flounder. Oh my gosh. And just trying to stay at peace. Okay, let me ask this though. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
seeing it now kind of like being in an elevator, how explain more of how when you're in that, because I've been in that blissful state meditating, but not in the astral realm. So I have not reached where you have reached, if that's appropriate to say. And when you're in that and feeling that, it is so, just like you said, it's so blissful. Like there's no time you're present. And then to come out of that and just be like, oh, here we are. I got to cook dinner for myself and wash the dishes. How, and knowing you're also, as you've expressed, kind of on this mission, how still do you do it? To get to transverse both, to know that this is what you're here to do, so that really helps you do it. Yeah, how do you do it? Tell more.
Yeah, yeah, but you're right, Eden. I think we can touch that place in meditation. You're absolutely right. And I think, those moments, those meditations you've had that you've just been in that absolute stillness and kind of nothingness but everythingness. So it's that nothingness but everythingness.
Mhm.
And I think personally,
Yeah,
I kind of I feel that I kind of try to embody, well, it happens naturally, but like our astral bodies are awake. So I sort of feel that I'm astral anyway now. So it's like I can, the same as you, I think, Eden, like these themes that are happening at the moment and ah, these agendas like climate change and these things. I mean, I genuinely kind of smile at them. And, one can sound a bit smug when we're using 3D words, okay? But it's like, growing pains that our civilization, our species are going through. And it can sound condescending if you put it out of context. But what I'm saying is, I kind of feel the astral all through us. I kind of feel that I'm living a deja vu kind of life where I'm watching my physical being right now even talk to you.
yeah.
Because in the astral, you don't choose your words. When you're um, telepathizing, is that actually a word, telepathize? It must be. When you're telepathizing with someone,
Love it.
you literally you pull the words from them. So like my answer to you would be, I would feel it streaming out of me, out of my crown, and it's so blissful, the words. They're just like, you'd feel them, and I wouldn't choose them per se. It just comes out of you, and vice versa. So it's like it's very it's not really an intellectual process. It's more a letting go. Once again, I'm saying. So I feel a long-winded answer, but I feel that it is beautiful to be. And even when I say the word be, I don't just mean be human. I mean be more than that, because they're humans. People look, from what I've gleaned, the human body, well, it's like a babushka thing, where we have these babushka dolls, where we have the 3D body and we have 4D, 5D. We have all these different bodies around us, but our greater self, that's what we are. And it's like, I hear my higher self speak to me in the astral, and when I say my higher self, literally sounds like me, talks through my crown, seems to know more than I know on a conscious level. Therefore, a higher version of myself. So he's very much with me. He's there. So it's like I see. It is a long-winded answer, but I see the
Love it.
3D existence as really channeling, I guess, the cosmos into this realm. So we're literally, like what do you call it? Like an avatar. We're literally like avatars in the 3D. So more and more, if we're kind of, docking into a higher self, even when we're in a situation where we're challenged. Like we were during the last few years. Like I had many challenges, but in many ways I was kind of detached through those challenges during COVID. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I answered the question.
You did. That was really beautifully put. Because again, my show is also about hope. Again, like we're floundering around a lot of it's all going to be fabulous, and especially if that's what you choose your world to be and how you think it's, you, like for me, that is my world and that's where I'm heading, and it's good, and it's just going to be better and better. And it was so funny how you talk about like you saying to people, I'm in the astral all the time. Like when people ask me about mindfulness and meditation, I'm like, I don't, my practice is all the time. Like my goal at any moment is to be in the present. So you saying that was like, I can totally relate to that. Tell me, because I know your background was Catholic. How did all of this play into that?
Yeah, but okay, was Catholic as a kid, but not practicing as, an adult kind of thing. So I'd always just been look very open to the whole thing. And I think you might have heard too that I once had an experience where the Lord's Prayer, my high
Oh, I
self was
didn't.
channeling the Lord's Prayer to me. That was
Oh,
fascinating. And that was during a waking astral experience where my body levitated. And also that was a healing of my knee that I'd injured. It was all strapped up and I was supposed to have an operation. Anyway, I
mm,
was able to circumnavigate that. But it was interesting because I remember thinking Lord's Prayer. I didn't even know the Lord's Prayer, and I did a bit of research into that. And I think, but like in the astral, there's a place you go to called the Void, which is like a very dark place. Not scary, it's just nothingness, and often you put your intention there in the astral where you want what you want to experience. And I remember the beginning hearing the Om, this low A, like an AUM, very low basso profundo male voice going Om. And I wasn't, it took me years to Google what Om meant. And so I've kind of stayed, just been like a lot of people, just detached and observing things. I'm never really bought into any particular religion. I remember years ago I was at a monk, so there were these Tibetan Kyoto monks, I think they were. Anyway, they were doing chanting, and I just happened to find myself at this performance of them chanting. And I remember one of them gave me these beads that they'd done something with. Anyway, I remember feeling, this is just me, but I remember after a week, I remember feeling very bit nauseous. Then I looked at these beads around my wrist. I just ripped them off, and I felt better. So for me, it was just that I just don't wish to be locked into any religious kind of thing, but recognizing they're all one. I mean, whatever we want to call it, it's all one, isn't it? And but just feeling that this lifetime wasn't about that. This particular lifetime wasn't about. It was and in many ways. Many people early on told me, don't speak about the astral, don't speak about your experiences, you'll lose them, you shouldn't share this knowledge. And I thought, well, people will take on board what resonates with them. And that's the beauty of being a maverick or outside of any tradition is that you can do what you want.
talk about that too, because I know for a while you're like, I'm not gonna tell anybody, and then you came
Yeah,
out about it. What what I don't know if finally is the word made you go, okay, let's just go. I'm
yeah.
gonna talk about this. What coerced you to do that?
Yeah, I remember vividly
Yeah.
that. And it was a feeling of, boy, some people were saying you shouldn't do this. I remember thinking, I thought long and hard about it. I thought, no, 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 this is really good. Going out of body is good. That's first of all that.
Yeah.
With the speaking of it, I um this was interesting. So I wrote my book around 2012. I got 2012 was when I wrote that book. Now that grew out of a situation where I was in Melbourne at the time.
Yeah.
I was meditating, felt you'll love this, and I felt a strange tweak at the back of my left brain. Like someone had pushed a finger in
Oh, that's
gently.
interesting. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I couldn't speak properly when I came out of the meditation. I said to my wife, look, something's happened. I couldn't actually string a sentence together properly,
Okay.
nor could I remember any of, and at that stage, this was what, 13 years ago, I was still doing, it was actually 2011 was the last, that was when that happened. Still doing a bit of music. I was doing half music, half Reiki, but kind of not quite owning and not telling people about astral experience at all. And so I couldn't really speak. Any of my colleagues, I couldn't remember their names. I had to
Oh,
rehearse subjects. And I was a funny guy, I'd go to work with my music colleagues and I'd laugh things off, but I couldn't enter into conversations. By the time I thought of the word or that person's name, the conversation moved on. So I became very quiet. Now, some people, I had no physical, I even got an MRI years later when I got some concussion here. And I mentioned that to the doctor and just to see what, in terms of the mainstream view, did I have a mini stroke? There was no signs of lesions or anything like that. So, but one person that knew I was going out of body said to me at the time, when I couldn't speak properly, they said, "Look, it's a bit of a what do you call like there is an expression for, it, but it's like a swap kind of thing, like." Because I also had the narrator in my brain had left the building, so it was kind of like I had radio silence, which I still kind of do. So there was no one there. It's delightfully absent, delightfully absent. Um, so it's called I've heard I had a French client who had a similar experience, and of course in French, not in English, but they called it left brain freeze, where you have there's a sort of like, actually a few people have had it. It's an interesting experience. And the cogs learn again, you learn how to speak again. And so during the next while, I wrote my book of experiences with the astral experience. So that literally pushed, I wrote a book as a therapy to get from one word, because you have to get to the end of the sentence. You have to find the words. So that book was my book. I thought, look, I'm going to write about my astral experiences because bugger it, I need to show myself. This is the time now. And so having that silence for a year, more or less, and we went to Spain and lived in a little town away from everybody, and I was able to get my words back, and that was when I started to publicly talk about the astral experience. So I was kind of forced into it.
Okay, so the book was once you finished the book, then you started talking about it, or did you start talking about it while you were writing?
After the book, yeah. Well, during the book, I was finding my words, and I just wanted to get my experiences down. And then after, then people would say, "Look, can you teach this?" And then a lot of people started to contact me, and so that kind of started the whole thing.
The whole thing. And right now, I would imagine there is such, because people are starting to wake up. Has your attention to that or your classes, I guess, have they just grown quickly? Or how's that going?
I think Brisbane's becoming the hub of astral travel. I'll
Whoa, isn't
probably
that neat?
I'll do more. I mean, I've got like an online course, but in terms
Yeah,
of physically, yeah, a lot of people do come for this, and sometimes talks and stuff, and generally around Australia. But I think, look, I've got, people now in the States and in the UK and Europe who are, we're all connecting, who have had very similar experiences and who are
yeah,
doing the same kind of thing. It's like remarkably similar experiences. Um, so there seems to be, like a program that wakes people up. It's really bizarre, isn't it? It's really quite bizarre to have these similar experiences. So yeah, more and more people are into this stuff, which is great to share because I'm just so look, once someone, as you know, when people have that experience of something more, it just changes everything.
it
Um,
does.
their waters change.
And it's so necessary right now because I also believe that
Yeah,
so much of the agendas and everything that's going on is to push us away from spirit and this greater connection and having places where you can do that. And I'm going to go back to talking about the void. I would talk about that too. Like when I would really get into a deep place, everything was black. And I was like, no, it's not dark black and not, it's just there, nothingness. It's
nothing.
beautiful. So it is this void, but it's not this, oh, I'm on this mountaintop and there are all these trees. It's just freaking quiet, which is so great. And I have to tell Greg, I'm going to relate to this just a personal experience. I'm kind of blown away when you were talking about your book and how therapeutic it was for you. So I've been writing this book for like 7 or 8 years and just came to this point where my mentor basically said, you can let it go if you want to because you've mastered what you were writing about. So I'm still going to do some composing of it, but it was so interesting that the book, it turns out, was for me. It was for me.
Yeah.
Okay, and yours was for others, but it was also very therapeutic for you as well. So I can totally relate to that. All right. Do you mind sharing? Because I know you've had so many experiences. And I know you also have seen yourself die multiple times. as well. And that is very helpful too. I also believe that death is not real. It's just we just transition from one consciousness to another. Can you tell us about, I don't know if it's fair to say, one of your biggest experiences or something that really stuck with you? One of the most impactful experiences. How's that?
Okay. One of the most impactful experiences. Well, funny enough, I mean, I mentioned, I touched upon this one. I'll just, that one where I meditate. Well, there's this little planet that I go to meditate, and
Oh,
like a stony planet, two suns, two moons. Um, but it's weird because, and there I was moved to meditate for the first time, and that was when I realized meditating the astral is just mind blowing in
mm,
terms of, I tell you what was impactful. It sounds simple compared to the bizarro experiences I had, but when I realized that the perfection, like when I realized that every decision I'd made
mm,
in my life, even the so-called wrong ones, the so-called dead ends, the things I'd um, felt that um, that I really wish I had made, and it was like all of these things just dropped away, and I realized, wow, I'm actually at this point standing on this planet right now meditating. So, in fact, and it was a sense of perfection that um, I was in that state of perfection. So I realized that there are no mistakes. Now, out of the astral light and out of context, you can say, but what about what that person did? That's a bad thing they did. However, they did it. Um, so therefore, not to own all of that means you're not actually owning the present moment. So what I realize is to be entirely present, one has to come to peace. This is on earthly terms with
mm,
everything that you've done, and then you start to actually embrace the present moment. And then other dimensions open up for you. So that's it's that feeling of falling into perfection or knowing that we are actually in a state of perfection at all times. So also the feeling that the universe is in a perfect state. Even these agendas are playing out as they should to help us wake up to what we are. So even though it appears crap, and as a human, would have got PTSD over the last few years. I realized actually last year I was actually depressed, probably for the first time. I realized in my life just about everything that had gone on, and plus the personal issues in my life, like so, and but realizing that's but anyway, when I had that, and I know in shamanic terms they call it soul retrieval, when you realize there are parts of your soul caught in the past, when there are very high emotions or times when you wish you'd done something else, and so we actually like little harpoon points, we get stuck, and so our energies are actually distracted, and we're losing energy because they're caught in past events. So traumatizing events, and as humans, as you said before, we're going to have trauma.
mm.
So it's almost like pulling in all of these things. And I found in that moment in the astral, probably in those few split seconds, because in the astral, often it's very fast, I just, it was such a healing thing just to meditate. That was so profound to realize that everything was exactly as it should be because it was. So it was total ownership of the present. You know what I mean?
Like letting go of regret, or I'm here at
Yeah.
this moment. I've made these decisions. Oh my gosh. Well, you did make these decisions, so it's all perfect, even though it doesn't look that way. And I have to comment really quick for those who are watching, Greg, that picture behind you, like it's like a little stars coming out of your head. It's perfect.
Yeah, there's mandalas. Yeah, a friend of mine who knows me painted them for me. They're really cool.
They
They're really
are
cool.
really cool. Oh my gosh, so they're
When you
hand
see
done?
them, they're hand done. Oh yeah, and when you see them
Oh,
up close, you can't really see, but they're really 3D. Like they're actually like a lot of black and white things. They're kind of a bit slightly greenish, because the black and white's not quite black and white, but
yeah.
they're done with pen, and they're just
Oh, wow.
interesting because the artist I know who did them. doesn't necessarily do that kind of stuff. She does other kind of floral things, but she did these for
Wow.
me. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, I know that is kind of funny, isn't it?
It
Um,
is very cute. And for those who
so,
can't see it, they're like three behind Greg,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're very they look very intricate, very geometric,
they
very
are
very nice,
mathematical. Hmm.
very mathematical. All right, so in terms of that made complete sense. It made complete sense, at least to me it did.
Yeah.
Knowing or saying that this life is a dream,
Hmm.
how would you comment to that?
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, also the dream, like having lucid dreams, like I um I was once in an astral experience. I had actually written my book, and I was, I think, a little bit tense as to how that would be received. Maybe not consciously, but anyway. So I read my book, and I was in this beautiful astral experience, and I was about to fly over this beautiful sort of molten lake. It was like a metallic molten lake, which for some reason in the astral we have lots of these metallic molten lakes. Anyway,
Wow.
as I'm about to do so, there were these two beings behind me, and I thought, well, this is interesting. And I felt like an antipathy from them. There was these two guys, and I thought, look, I was moved not to because I could easily have flown away. And I thought, look, I'll confront whatever this is. And one of them said, "Oh, you're having a samsara moment." And I thought, I'll Google that. Anyway, um, I let them come toward me, and as they came toward me, they kind of started to pummel me, and I felt this incredible bliss. And they were looking confused, and I kind of disappeared. And I thought that's interesting. So the next time I had a lucid dream, which I have a lot of. I would allow any antagonist, or here's one example. Here's a classic example. My stepdad, when I was a kid, he was quite physically violent.
Mm,
Um, so in the dream, I was in a dream in my old family home when I was a kid. He was coming toward me, complaining about the TV being too loud or something. And I knew, and I could feel this energy coming to me, that was kind of, ooh. Anyway, I was conscious I was in a dream, and I allowed him, because of that astral experience, I allowed him to come into my field. And as he did so, I felt this incredible bliss again. Then I realized, okay, this is what's being shown to me here. I realized, like in dreams as well, if I'm about to crash the car, I would allow the car to crash, and I would, so I would allow myself to fall off the cliff. And I was starting to realize I was being shown there is no fight, because often we're shown the physical, we've got to have some fight. And it's like this, the agenda that's been happening over the last few years, probably, over the last while, is really, forcing division, wanting people to fight, so they get distracted really from what's actually going on. So um, I realized that, in fact, what I'm being taught is in this reality, there's no real fight per se. So it's like, because it's all a win-win, it's all so it's just to remain true to yourself, but not actually that there's no need to energetically, if you like, kind of lose yourself in what the agenda is putting up in front of you, because it's not real anyway. So it's like, I guess, yeah, it just draining charge away from your field. So you don't need to actually represent something. So that I found that, and I found more and more that if I'm talking to people, on a certain subject, and this has very much come up in the last few years with all the things that's coming up, you can feel very much if that person is on that wavelength, and if you're actually going to help them by talking on that theme or not. So it's kind of like, buying into certain things. So I feel that
mm,
we are here to wake up, and it's like, when our emotional body has lost the charge that it kind of, like trauma is frequency, and a lot of it's a little bit like we hunger for drama. And once we generally lost that within ourselves, then we don't reincarnate, do we? So that's the feeling. And it's funny because I've had a couple of Buddhist Tibetan guys come to an astral workshop once, and then they're really into astral travel. It was great to talk about karma and all these things, and that notion that karma is kind of dead in the water once you see it. When I mean action reaction, we don't have to always, you know, you know, react to what they want us to react to. And that they, I remember them saying to me, that Buddhist thing, as you mentioned, to be human is to suffer, but we transcend suffering. So I think that this life, just like a lucid dream, I mean, it's so clear in a lucid dream where you don't need to take action. So when you first wake up in dreams, you want to control the dreams. Then you let go of the dream. And that's when the magic happens, when you let go of all the drama around you. I know as a human being, we have to play to a certain degree. And I remember it was really funny when I lost the ability to speak properly, and I was really having a lot of astral experiences. And this is just before I wrote my book. I go to my music workplace, and I'd be in a meeting, and I didn't like my boss there. And she'd ask me direct questions, and I would just not respond. I would go through a phase where it was hilarious. You would have loved it. Oh, so I was just going through a phase when I was thinking, what is reality? So people would ask me a direct question. I would just like look at this.
And they're like,
And
hello, are you not paying
that's right.
attention
And they
to
get used
me?
to it. They kind of saying, well, did he say yes or no? Like, is he going to do it, or is so? I was so belligerent. It was hilarious. It was hilarious because it was the wrong place. It was a toxic workplace for me. So
Oh,
I was forced to move myself away. And my colleagues, I never understood how they could do it, but for them, it wasn't toxic. For me, it was.
right.
So it was funny though, because I just refused to engage with. So we've got to find a way to engage that is not really um, affecting us, on a visceral level. So,
Mhm.
do you know what I mean? Where we
Yes.
can, it's kind of, it's not being faux enraged. It's kind of like because a few years ago I had a friend who because I was very much against this is years ago against the flu vaccine because my mother took a flu vaccine 25 years before she died and she had a reaction to the flu vaccine and was very, very sick for the rest of her life, was bedridden for 25 years. And those days, the doctor apologized and said, I'm sorry you had a bad reaction to the flu vaccine, but there was obviously something else in her that, anyway, so I looked into this stuff for years. And I had a friend of mine who was a musician who was kind of dopey musician. And whenever I brought up that theme, I would notice she would light up, and I would see this frequency, this literally like a current. We say current affairs. I would see this current come into her, and her eyes and she'd become very articulate, very angry and very articulate. Then it would pass, and then she'd be back to herself. So I realized that a lot of our thoughts are not our own. And this became very apparent during the last few years with the agendas and even now continuing on. So people's, if you like, their evolutionary, I'm not meaning to be condescending, I'm just saying their evolutionary, uh, aerial, if you like, um, picks up certain frequencies and ideally it passes through you. So um, if it's a frequency that is actually not real, and a lot of the agenda is, as you know, not actually real, that
Mhm.
passes straight through you then.
Okay, so
Passes
like
straight
the
through
the
you. No,
programming kind of
the
thing.
programming,
Yes.
exactly. So we are receivers, and that's what I'm getting into that
Yeah.
notion that the astral body is always here. So we are receivers. We're actually channeling the cosmos in some way. I mean, who could argue that we're not channeling the cosmos into a human life? So it's to cut down those receptors that don't serve you and that serve the illusion, you know?
Clearly stated. Yeah, to find this freedom, this critical, to find ourselves again, because we've been so lost in all this that is not who we are.
Mhm.
Greg, would you, I know you got your books and your classes as well. If you're going to give one recommendation for someone to who desires to start having these experiences, and I love letting go. To me, letting go is what we're here on this earth to do. Astral experiences, everything, just to let go. What would be a first step?
First step would be to know it to be so, and to have like a heartfelt intention of what you would like to experience. So
Ooh,
what
neat.
what greater experience would you like to have that is heartfelt? Because it is a heart-based experience. Often the astral body is connected to the heart chakra, so the heart chakra can go a little crazy. It can beat like mad, and it doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack, which is not at all. It just means that there's this kind of your heart chakra is fully activated. So I think to have a heart-based, intentional, target experience you'd like to have. What would you like to meet someone who you've loved, who is passed, or a family member, or would you like to go somewhere? What is it you really and to kind of hold that experience for a bit, um, and to know that it can happen, that you can really have this experience, and to first set the intention, I think.
Oh, great. I do want to ask you this question, then we'll go into the practice for a moment. Thank you for that.
Mm,
Thank you for that. Well, I want to add, like I have always believed that there was more, but for me, the past 4 years have really opened me up into the cosmos, and there's a lot of channeling or voices or things that I hear or whatever, and realizing there's so much out there. It's
mm,
there's no way to conceptualize the beings, the races or whatever you call it. It is so vast and so broad. And that's been one thing for me that has just been wow. And within that there's so little that I know, that as I gain more information and more clarity with things, I'm like, oh, that's great. But then, oh gosh, that means look at all of this and all this unknown. But that is so cool. How is it? I know you lived in other parts, and knowing that Australia during the past 4 or 5 years was very constricted. Were you there when everything was going on with
yeah, it was here,
lockdowns
but
and that sort of thing?
luckily I am from Melbourne, but luckily I was up north. I'm living in Queensland now, which is up north, which is a lot freer.
Oh gosh.
We were
Okay.
lucky. We have only had a few weeks probably of lockdown all up. Um, Whereas
Oh,
down south, I think they had 2 years.
oh my God. And how far is that? How many hours?
20-hour drive.
Okay, so it is pretty far, but still, what a dramatic difference. I didn't realize that. Okay,
Oh
thank
yeah,
you.
we had look, I'm close to the borders of the next state, which is New South Wales. So
Yeah.
our states are very big, but geographically anyway, and it's only an hour away. They had like border lockdowns, and like I had friends who, would park their car there and get the whole family across the border and someone would pick them up. It was hilarious. I mean, ridiculous at the time.
Oh my
But I mean,
gosh.
looking back, absolutely absurd what went on, and people couldn't reach hospitals because they were the closest hospitals over the border, and people would die. I mean, it was, a lot of stuff still coming out, and I think that, it has to be all looked at, and which it is all being looked at. So, but we were very lucky here in Queensland. Yeah, we were the freest state.
Wow.
Well, how about yourself? It wasn't so bad where you were.
Well, I'm in the state of Ohio. Again,
Would
states
have
were
been
a
pretty
lot
good.
different.
Mm.
And that's like I was always spiritually awake, let's call it, but right before the lockdowns, that's when I started becoming awake
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
agendas and the control and us being in a slave state and that sort of thing.
Mm, mm.
So when it first started happening, just quickly, I had asked my husband for a divorce 3 weeks before the lockdowns. So suddenly we were, my two girls and my husband, we were all at home. And at
Wow.
the same time, I'm waking up to the truth of everything. And he is on the exact opposite page of that. So
Oh,
it was more than just a lockdown experience for me. It was a total experience of everything, and knowing that this during this awakening is also about changing relationships and marriages, and uh,
yeah,
I full blown all of that happened to me
yeah.
at that
Wow.
time. So yeah, and standing up for freedoms, and and being perceived as also like this black sheep. How can you be doing? And I was at January 6th, and
Mm.
seeing the truth of that.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
being
yeah,
seen as a domestic terrorist, and my parents and the divorce. It was quite a couple of years. I would say 1 year, but
yeah.
I would say 2 years. So that was that was a long answer to your question, but it was in Ohio. There are a lot of people here that are awake. I think I'm not from here, and I look at Ohio like, how did I end up here? And I realize this is the perfect place for me right now. That it
Mm.
that people are opening up and seeing, and there's a lot of patriots that are here as well. So
Right.
it's so interesting. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so glad
yeah.
we went
Wow.
into
Well,
that.
What a journey, though. I mean, I know. And look, I went to also the freedom rallies here in Brisbane, and we were lucky because, the police here were very good and protecting of us because we were, in the very beginning, we weren't sure how to be taken. But then down south in Victoria and Melbourne, they were shooting rubber bullets at people who would go to these rallies. And like I had friends down south when they realized what I'd done, gone to these freedom rallies, they were calling me a Nazi. And
I know. Yeah.
I had to let a lot of friends go from down there because they had Stockholm syndrome down there. They were locked up so bad. One of the worst place in the world, worst city in the world in Melbourne. And it's still there when you go and visit it because that's my home city. It's like Gotham City. We call it the Dark City. It's
Oh,
the Dark City. So it's some karma they've had to deal with. Um, and they're even putting a leader up. They're putting a statue up for that leader at that time. It's quite bizarre what's gone on down there. But yeah, it very interesting. And I think to stand up for yourself was important at that time to what you
yeah.
believed in. It depended where everyone was at, and and it was good. It kind of galvanized um, groups, and a lot of my friends probably have come out of those times now that we had a nice group formed during that time.
Very good. And it
Yeah.
does, I don't know about you, it made me stronger in standing up for a belief that at the time was very unpopular. So to not get vaccinated when all my family and everything too, like again, you're crazy. What are you doing? Um, yeah, it was so good though. I mean, it was hard during the time, but I would not, again, not trade it for the world.
No, same. And I think that's where it was a spiritual thing, so we're going through that, and it was something that I did have an astral experience at the beginning of it. I remember
Oh,
before all of that, and it was a beautiful light experience. And I was shown that a lot of people would die, not from the actual thing, but um, what was to follow, which you could say was a vaccine. But I was shown that the country would break up into state. I remember that they were showing that no cars on the road, and that was, I guess, alluding to the lockdowns, but that yeah, the states would form separate countries, which they did. They formed that for the first time, closing borders and things like that. So it was interesting, but it was a feeling that we're going to go through a tunnel. It was a very ecstatic light experience at the time, and I remember thinking, okay, we're going to go through a period of kind of quasi darkness. But we're coming through that now, and I feel at 25, with what's going on in the States as well is fantastic. I think this is so good what's happening now, and I just think there's like a real feeling of optimism coming, and that's my feeling.
and there's definitely a split because I think the Harvard Review just talked about again comparing Trump to Hitler. You had that similar thing again, just this holding on to whatever we can hold on to keep people divided, to keep people in
That's
fear.
right. Yeah.
So y'all don't. So he used to
No.
say that. Don't be in fear. It's all going to be good. And Greg, I have to ask you this. From my understanding, like in March, there's going to be this breath of just relief that is going to come to Earth, which that's not very far away. And
Mm.
I feel good, even though I watch other people going through some major hardships right now, and it's hard to go. I feel good during
Yeah,
this.
I'm the same with you. I feel really good. I feel there's been a lift. It's like finally feeling we can let go and sigh, and I just feel an optimism that I haven't felt for the last few years. The last few years have been
No,
tough. As you say, like we went through it, and that's fine. But I'm starting to really feel good again, and I think that tunnel is opening up. You know.
good. Oh, thank you so much for talking about that and going into
Mm.
that on a personal level. I appreciate it.
Mm.
Well, I think it's perfect time to head into the practice. What can you give us today, Greg?
Just be
Look, what
practice.
could be nice is look, we can do. Do you want to do a little meditation or something like that? Would
Yes.
that be nice? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Look, we can do one now. Even just as you sit here now, we'll just a few minutes, huh?
Yeah.
So just closing your eyes and feeling into your body. When I say feeling in your body, just feeling how you are. And I do this every morning just to kind of allow my body to take a breath if it needs, and just sort of to feel in the astral, your body, you very much feel one sense. So to sense the body as a one sense kind of thing. Now imagine, along this column of energy that runs from above your spine, down through the spine and out through the base of the spine. Along that column where we have the chakras, just imagine a beautiful ball of white light aligned with the heart chakra. So that, and this is like if you were to see a star or our own sun outside of our atmosphere, it's very white light. So imagine this beautiful star that is this chakra, your heart chakra, and feel it as you feel into it, you feel it starting to pulsate with awareness. Imagine it's white, but translucent white, but also beautiful gold all through it. So gold is that high dimensional color. And sense this chakra just starting to expand with your awareness, just like that. Now think of your throat chakra the same. Think of a beautiful ball of white light, star chakra, center of your throat, and feel it infused with gold, also starting to expand. Solar plexus the same, your star chakra expanding, just like that. Middle of your head, ball of white light, star chakra expanding, infused with gold. This very bright, small light that starts to expand. Sacral chakra just below the belly button. Feel it expanding, this beautiful star. Very crown of the head. When you feel that star expanding the crown of your head, it's like the plates of the cranium start to open up. That's where we connect with divine above. Base of your spine, same beautiful chakra, beautiful star expanding above your crown. Many stars, many chakras expanding below your base, the same. Many chakras, stars expanding. And next exhalation, just feel your whole aura starting to unite, heart-centered light. So feel this light moving all through your body as all your chakras unite, and sense it permeating the pores of your physical body, and around your physical body have this really bright pulsating white light infused with gold. Next exhalation, sense this light expanding to the infinite horizons, the cosmos, left, right, front, back, up, down, just like that. And then when you inhale, bring it back to your aura, which sits outside your physical. Remembering the astral body actually sits around the physical body. It's a greater body, the physical body, it's larger. And breathing out again to infinite horizons, bringing that light. And each time you bring the light back into your aura, it pulsates with more awareness, with more consciousness, with more vibrancy. Breathing out again. Keep that breathing going on like a great giant cosmic butterfly in slow motion with the wings opening and closing. As you're doing that, know that you are beaming out your prime intentions. And as you bring back in to your aura this light, you're actually bringing back greater guidance, greater cosmic intelligence. You're bringing back the codes, the frequencies you need. So when I say your prime intents, these are the reasons you've incarnated. Perhaps your desire for astral awareness, multidimensional awareness. All of these things can be non-intellectual, non-verbal, but they're within your field. These great golden question marks are being beamed out to the outer reaches of the cosmos. And due to the laws of resonance, you're bringing back guidance, codes, frequencies, cosmic intelligence into your field, and you're embodying all of this. Basically, the answers are coming back into your field, not necessarily verbally, but you're bringing back everything you need to experience that on a more conscious level. And so next inhalation, just bringing it back around your aura, sensing, keeping the breath there and keeping your aura beautiful, beautiful white golden light. And keeping that aura really bright and vibrant with this awareness. So imagine your astral eyes open, your astral senses active, even though your physical eyes are closed. So knowing that the astral body can be activated and is awake at all times if you want it to be. This is your preemptive body, like the senses are basically contained in the astral body. So just taking one nice last deep, beautiful breath in, sensing that beautiful glowing awareness that you are, heart-centered star that we are. And so we're basically awakening our star consciousness, which is our astral consciousness, our high dimensional consciousness. And starting to become aware of the sounds around you now without needing to label them, becoming aware of the seat beneath you, the beautiful earth beneath you, becoming aware that you're connected to everything, and just very gently opening your eyes when you're ready and allowing yourself to still be connected to everything around you, feeling that beautiful feelings that you have, just feeling the smile starting to expand from your heart as well.
But I'm not ready.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Oh, but I will be ready. Hey, good stuff.
Yeah,
Good
it's a nice
stuff.
thing.
Greg, I'm looking at you. Thank you so much for bringing yourself here, your knowledge, your time, doing that meditation for all of us as well. I mean, that really helped me. So thank you for me personally. Um, yeah, I'll say goodbye to you off air. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Or I think that was great.
Well, thank you, Eden, too, and also it helped me talking to you as well. So I
Oh, I'm
really
so
appreciate it.
glad.
It's so nice to meet you. This is the first time we've actually met, and it's so nice
Yeah,
to meet a
thank
kindred
you.
spirit in
Thank
this
you.
world. And I really appreciate the invite and sharing this with your listeners. And yeah, it was so nice. Hope to do it again sometime.
So heartfelt. Love that, which this is what this is about. All right, y'all. See you next week. Hang on with me, Greg. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.